What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. Today's episode is going to be brought to you by Mystery Ranch, built for the mission. And if you haven't been rocking a Mystery Ranch Fireline pack, well, that sucks. Yeah, the Mystery Ranch Fireline series is founded basically off the back of the professional workforce whose primary duties are the suppression and management of wildland fires. Hence, that is you. And why do they kick ass? Why do you kick ass? Well, because y'all work together. Yeah, literally. Mystery Ranch could not exist, at least their Fireline packs could not exist unless it was from feedback directly from you folks on the ground there. Yeah. So why do they do this? Well, simple. It's because they give a shit. And they give a shit so much that they are giving away $1,000 scholarships to help improve your professional career. Oh, how's this, you might ask? Well, it's easy. If you heard of the Backbone series, which if you have ever listened to the show, I'm pretty sure you've heard of the Backbone series. Yeah. So if you're telling the story of Wildland Fire and also doing it to, potentially get one of these $1,000 Mystery Ranch Backbone series scholarships to advance your career, well, now's your chance because TikTok, deadline is May 31st, 2023. So hurry up and get those submissions in. You can go over to www.mysteryranch.com and check out the Backbone series where you can find all of the little tips and tricks and things to do to submit your story and enter to win one of these professional development scholarships. So once again, go over to www.mysteryranch.com and check out the Backbone series. It's awesome. The Anchor Point podcast is also going to be brought to you by our friends over at Hotshot Brewing. It's kick-ass coffee for a kick-ass cause, and a portion of the proceeds will always go back to the Wildland Firefighting Foundation. Yeah, they're pretty cool. They make some pretty decent coffee too. And like me, I can't do this stuff unless I'm overly caffeinated. So thanks, buddy. Thanks, Hotshot Brewery. Appreciate you. But if you are looking for anything else besides the kick-ass coffee for a kick-ass cause, well, they have a full line of the tools of the trade to get your morning started off right, and a full line of Wildland Firefighter themed apparel. So if you want to find out more, go over to www.hotshotbrewing.com and check it out. Yeah. And you can even score some of the Anchor Point merch if you're so happy to be looking for some. So if you want to score one of those Band of Brothers tees or one of the Fire Fiend tees, just go over to www.hotshotbrewing.com and check it out. The Anchor Point podcast would also like to give a quick little shout out to our buddy Booze over at the Ass Movement. And if you don't know what that is, well, it's an acronym and it's a hilarious acronym. It stands for the Anti-Surface Shitting Movement, and it is all for a good cause. It is propaganda of poo burying, and it is the finest propaganda indeed. So I don't know about y'all out there, but I absolutely hate the thought of a surface turd, whether I'm coming up to my favorite chucker hunting place or my favorite fly fishing hole and seeing a human turd gift wrapped in toilet paper and just haphazardly placed on the surface. It's like, come on, guys, really? Do we not learn how to bury our turds? So if you want to help spread the good word about burying your turds, well, you can go over to www.thefirewild.com and check out the Ass Movement, where you can get all of your poo burying propaganda needs fulfilled. And check this out. You can save 10% off your entire order site wide by using the code AnchorPointAss10 at checkout. So once again, go over to www.thefirewild.com and check out the Ass Movement. And last but not least, the Anchor Point podcast is going to be, well, not sponsored by, but supported by. No, not even supported by. How do we present this? Well, I'm a huge supporter of theirs, and I believe in what they're doing. Now, they don't pay me for doing these ads. I just believe in their cause. So, one, go over to www.wildfireexperience.org and check it out. You may possibly know them as the Smoky Generation. What do they do? Well, it is a catalog of wildland firefighting stories dating all the way back to the 1940s. It's like a digital history lesson from our peers in the field and some of those legendary figures that we call superintendents, hotshots, and operators, our peers, all of that stuff. It's all located there at the Wildfire Experience, the American Wildfire Experience, or the Smoky Generation. They're all linked to each other. So go over there, check it out. And while you're at it, check out the Smoky Generation grant program that they are doing, because it is awesome. They're giving away $500 grants to those folks that are telling the story of wildland fire. Now, time is limited on this one too. So TikTok, pitter patter, get at her. Anyways, Bethany, you have a kick-ass organization out there. Keep it up.
views and opinions of this podcast do not reflect the views and opinions of the United States government, the Department of the Interior, the Department of Defense, the Department of Agriculture, the United States Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, National Park Service, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, or any private, municipal, county, or state firefighting organization, any law enforcement agency, any medical provider, or any contractor employed by any federal agency.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Anchor Point podcast. I hope everybody's doing well. Looks like Canada is getting their ass kicked in. Yeah, it's like wholesale ass kicking up there. I hope everybody's doing all right and hoping those that our Canadian counterparts are keeping a head on the swivel and staying safe up there. But Jesus, man, especially with the Fort McMurray fire kind of like on everybody's mind still. Just, dude, raw deal indeed. But anyways, hope everybody's gearing up for the season. I hope everybody's ready to rock and roll. But today on the episode, we're going to do a little bit of a tell-all, a crew tell-all from the Nevada Bureau of Land Management crews. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. We got a lot of awesome topics. We're going to be doing some demystification of the crew life, of course. We're going to talk about the old school versus the new and some of the changes in operations and mindset and shit. We even talk about the professionalism, development of a professional workforce. And quite frankly, we came to the conclusion that it's already there. It's already professional. Don't fix it if it's not broken. We're also talking about social media, the difference between clout chasing versus utility on the old social medias, and a litany of other topics like chasing hazard time and overtime. Yeah. It's pretty awesome. This is a good one. I think everybody's going to get a real good insight as to how crews operate and what they're all about. So with that being said, I would like to introduce some of my good friends, all from the Nevada Bureau of Land Management crews organization. I'm going to just say that out loud. It's not really an organization, but it's all the crews pretty much representative of across the state of Nevada. These are folks that I've worked with and had the pleasure of working with in the past, and they are some awesome folks. So with that being said, I would like to introduce my good friends, Justin Zabala. He is the former assistant soup of Ruby Mountain Hotshots and now the superintendent. We've got Kris Bruington. He is the former Lone Peak IHC superintendent, and now he is the fire operations coordinator for the state office here in Nevada for the Bureau of Land Management. We also got Chase Maness, and he is the former Midnight Sun superintendent and Ruby Mountain Hotshots superintendent, but now he is the Eastern Nevada Agency BIA FMO. And then last but not least, we've got JP Blair. He is going to be the superintendent of Vegas Valley Veterans Crew. Those guys are awesome. I have a lot of history with those folks, and they are a fine crew indeed. So I hope everybody enjoys this episode, and I hope that it kind of demystifies the crew life, and, well, you know what to do next. Welcome to the Anchor Points. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Anchor Point podcast. Today on the show, I've got some representation from the BLM State of Nevada crews. Like, we got a pretty good mix of every crew in the room here. This is pretty cool, man. So what's new in the world of crews?
I think right now, I know in the BLM, it's like working on structuring the crew organizations to kind of fit the needs and kind of promote upward movement, promote retention. I know in BLM Nevada, the crews, we got approval kind of running the 1, 2, 3 organization. So 1 hotshot soup, 2 assistants, and 3 squad leaders. And kind of the intent, moving forward, it's like if some of those upper level overhead on the crew, it's like want to take a roll off or something, the crew will still meet, still be fully structured and able to operate at a high level versus, having to adjust how you operate if, say, the soup's gone or one of the assistants gone. So
a lot more flexibility built into the programs.
A lot more flexibility, and then also working on increasing the amount of career employees, not PFT employees, career seasonal employees.
Yeah, we don't want any more PFTs.
Yeah, you say PFTs and a lot of people cringe, it's like people don't want to, especially on crews, right? Hotshot crews, Handcrews, Type 2 IA crews, all that stuff, right? People don't want to fucking work all year round. They don't want a 26-0. I mean, not a lot of them do. I mean, they're probably burnt out by the time they like get done with their ass kicker of a season, especially if they're like a 1,200-hour season, right? That's just my opinion.
And I think there's like some differing opinions on professionalizing the workforce, because I feel like there's a group of people that think making people 12-month PFT employees is professionalizing the workforce. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the Hotshot crews are super professional as it is.
Oh, 100%.
And I mean, there's even talk of having all the crews, be in career positions, even if they are career seasonal positions. But I think there's always going to be room for that temporary workforce. Because like looking back through the crews that I've run, it's like some of the hardest hitting hotshots were those seasonals. They might only be on the crew for 3 or 4 seasons, but they, show up, throw down for 4.5 months, and then go off, travel the world or live in the forest,
go to school,
eat
whatever.
Squirrels. I don't know what they do, but
that fresh blood just keeps the status quo away, and it breeds competition, which keeps the crew operating at a high level. I left the Forest Service over in California because there was too many PFTs. Being a captain there was terrible. Being a squad leader there would probably be even worse, just due to the fact that you are the day-to-day work leader that has to find work for those guys. And when overhead sees 20 plus people on the books every day, they want to send them somewhere. And unfortunately, that's hard work.
Sticks and shit.
Stacking sticks, burning for, we were doing, we'd go down on Monday and come home on Friday, but we'd go burn for 5 days and be gone from the family so. Yeah. That's how I ended up in Nevada, was PFTs.
Yeah.
I got a phone call from a GS3 PFT from one of the California crews.
Wait, GS3 full-time permanent?
Yeah.
GS3 PFT.
Straight off the street, they'll hire you.
Holy shit.
No experience.
And he was miserable because they were just covered in snow and there was no work he could actually do. And he was a skier and was just dreaming about skiing.
Just looking up at the hill.
I actually think he ended up working for Silver State, honestly. I think Silver State picked him up, so he got out of that scene. And you keep making PFTs, too many people PFTs, I feel like that's going to be the trend. They're going to filter to the less year round.
And they still go away. These guys, a bunch of these guys got duped, without getting into the weeds, but you don't know what you're getting into right off the bat. So when a forest FMO or some hiring official calls you and he says, and they started at the top. So they were doing 26-0, then they bumped it down to 18-8 and then 13-13. But you had to ask about it.
Yeah.
So they would call you and ask you if you wanted a career job. And you go, of course. And then they'd start you off. Okay, well, we'd like you to work year round. How's that for you? And it's your first job. And you're like, okay, yeah, sounds great. Or like, if you had a friend and they had told you, you go, well, what about like the seasonal thing? And they go, oh, okay, yeah, 18-8. And then if you really had some friends that told you and you pressured the hiring official, you could ask for a 13-13 career job. But they weren't advertising. They didn't start at the bottom, and they weren't really advertising that across the fence anyways in Cali, as much as it started at the 26-0, then trickled down.
Gotcha.
So some guys showed up on day one, and they get a computer and a card and
link pass,
and they're doing like a big onboarding thing, and we're like, welcome to the rest of your life. And they're like, well, no, I want to get laid off. We're like, that doesn't happen, bro.
Think again, that's another thing too you brought up too, is like the boredom, right? Especially in the winter and the shoulder seasons when you don't really have shit to do. You can't go burn because you're buried in snow. It's like, is that saying like there's nothing more dangerous than a bored Marine? Mm-hmm. Same thing with hotshots. There's nothing more dangerous than a bored hotshot. So yeah.
Well, when you look at some of these career positions, a career 3, and what are they taking home on a base wage? You have your benefits, you have your retirement, if they decide to throw stuff in the TSP. So that GS3 career position is not making as much take home as that GS3 seasonal. And unfortunately, they're not looking long-term. They don't quite, some do, but they don't quite realize the value of the retirement, TSP, et cetera. But they're looking at what's going on my bank account.
Oh yeah.
And when it's $500 less than, person here that's a GS3 seasonal, that is a conversation that they kind of get shocked with, like, oh crap.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those conversations that's not really had too often, because when I was 19, 20 years old, I wasn't fucking thinking about retirement, man. I mean, would I like to retire by the time I'm 45? Sure. Is it realistic for me? Fuck no, it ain't. I mean, I cashed out my TSP to buy a house when I got out of the game, but I mean, that's what I had to do, man. But I think a lot of people don't really understand the long-term gains. I mean, if you could suffer through eating Wonder Bread and fucking ramen, by all means do it. But that season of life at the same time, man, you got to make that decision that between like doing hood rat shit in the wintertime and the summertime, or being PFT and paying in for the long-term gains. Right.
Well, I think there's always kind of the, just a joke about, usually that second year hotshot, they show up with a brand new Tacoma, brand new whatever.
They're hotshot rich,
because they're rolling in the cash in the summer. Like, heck yeah, I'm going to do it again next year. But you have that conversation of like, hey, why don't you open up a Roth IRA? Yeah. I'm good.
Well, it's like when the BIL money hit, right? I was like, hold up. You guys are going to be like hotshot. This is like a windfall event for a lot of people out there, especially the lower levels. We're not established. You're just like a single person out there and you're just, I don't know, buying Tacomas and shit like that. It's like, fucking don't buy the brand new Tacoma. Go save that shit. Invest in your future, man. I was like trying to push that narrative because I wish I had not made those mistakes. Did I have fun? Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun. But now you have this windfall event. What do you do with it?
We're actually advising, and good, bad, indifferent, like you almost have to advise the GS3 not to take all the career options. Definitely put something in your TSP. But if you take the expensive healthcare and the top life insurance and all of that stuff, like you're going to literally not be able to eat.
Yeah.
If you're living in the barracks and you have a good barracks cost, you're going to live very, very tight in the wintertime if you have good life insurance, good health insurance, and you're putting a little bit away in your TSP. The worst was during the COVID stuff when the guys who had taken the career jobs were making significantly less money than the guys who were on unemployment. We had guys trying to get laid off. Can I just go to LWOP? Like they were trying to figure out how they could get back into that COVID unemployment money that was so much bigger. The bottom line, like you said, because these guys are living at the barracks eating ramen and Wonder Bread and their buddies are out partying, man.
Closing down the bar and eating steaks.
Yeah, they're getting like Airbnbs together, because it's supposed to be the COVID lockdown. So they meet up in some city and get an Airbnb for a month together and just pay for it.
Which is probably dirt cheap because of COVID.
Yeah. And in the meantime, we're asking GS3s in California to come to work because there might be a fire.
I mean, facts, dude. That's how it is. But that's a game we play, right? That's the decisions that we make. It's ultimately up to us. But I think we just need to be better at producing that message and saying like, hey, these are the choices that you have to make to either take the long term or go and do the short term stuff.
Well, going back to what Chase said, we have a lot of flexibility here in Nevada when things get brought up, like the second captain and the 3 squad leaders, as long as we can make it make sense and show the reasons why. I feel supported enough from our leadership that they're at least going to let us give it a try. Mm-hmm. I haven't bought onto the 1, 2, 3 yet. Just we're a veteran crew. We have a different structure and our turnover is quite a bit different. But that's not to say that it wouldn't work. I want to look at how it comes, but we do have a lot of support. It seems like anything that we bring up as a good idea gets pushed all the way and gets support coming back down.
It's not like it's the fuck around and find out graph, right? I mean, if you come up with a good idea, you got to test the waters, but sometimes it doesn't work out. And if things go too far without a lot of, I guess, insight or like thought into it, they just like implement a policy or a plan, there's going to be repercussions, both good and bad, or maybe unforeseen, right? Yeah. So anyways, let's go around the table and introduce ourselves. Give us a little background story about who you are, what you've done. Take it away, man.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. Kris Bruington, current position, fire operations coordinator with BLM Nevada out of our state office. And really what that position entails is, kind of a special projects doer, if you will. I like to still stay engaged with the engine programs, the crew programs, really kind of just, all sorts of stuff come my way from our operational medical support program. Engine captain committee sounds like we'll be getting stood up here. Prior to that, I was a battalion chief or a FOS, fire operations specialist with Idaho Falls BLM. And before that, Hotshot soup for Lone Peak Hotshots out of Salt Lake, non-federal program. I was there soup for, I can't remember how many years, 5 years or so. And then on the crew late, essentially winter of 2005. And then just type 2 IA Handcrews before that. So primarily all my experience is really the Handcrew portion, and then a a little bit of engine, program supervision.
Nice. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, my name's Justin Zabala. I'm the current assistant superintendent right now. Had a tentative job offer, which I'll be getting the soup position this next Monday.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. This will be my 13th season on Ruby Mountain Hotshots. Started as a GS3, worked my way up, so I pretty much have done every position on one crew. Before that, I worked for the Type 2 IA crew out of Elko, Nevada, the ENA, Eastern Nevada Agency. And then the next season went to Wells, Nevada on an engine.
Nice.
So,
right on.
I'm Chase Maness. I cut out a little bit there, but I started my career the day after I graduated high school. I actually missed my graduation party.
No shit.
Because I had to take S-130, 190. I was a grayback contract crew. Did that for 4 seasons, and then I went up to Alaska as a crew member on the Midnight Sun Hotshots. Was there for about a decade. Worked my way up to the superintendent position there. Did that for my last 2 seasons, and then in 2020, transferred down to BLM Nevada to run the Ruby Mountain Hotshots. Did that for 3 seasons, and then last month I took the Eastern Nevada Agency BIA AFMO position on the Elko district, and just kind of getting into that role and figuring out what all that entails. It's kind of a unique thing because I'm a BLM employee, but I'm funded through a reimbursable agreement through the BIA to kind of serve as their AFMO and manage the camp crews and the Handcrew for Eastern Nevada Agency. So
Nice.
still getting into it and sometimes questioning my life decisions, but I think I did it for the right reasons.
Well, congratulations as well, man.
Thank you.
I'm JP Blair. I'm the current superintendent at Vegas Valley Veterans on the Southern Nevada District, BLM down in Las Vegas. I started my career with Mill Creek Hotshots on the San Bernardino. I did the apprenticeship program through there. I converted up at Big Bear and worked for Frank Esposito. Yeah. I left there. I went down to Vista Grande, did a squad leader detail there, got a squad boss job at Del Rosa. Worked for Neil Gamboa there for a while before he took off. Went back to Vista Grande and did another detail as a captain up there, working for Brett Pascali. And then I got my captain job back at Del Rosa, working for Dave Barrero. I enjoyed all of it down there. There was some unique challenges, definitely got my teeth cut, and that's where I learned everything, but I have no qualm with leaving. It was a very good place to grow up, but it was a very good place to walk away from.
Nice. Yeah, and that's that whole thing. It was a big topic of discussion throughout this entire week, is that when you're moving around and trying to move up through the ranks, you kind of you have to move. Like, you have to move around, right? Especially on crews. Like, traditionally, a lot of that upward movement is really like blocked, because a lot of people, once they get into the hotshot or the crew life, they kind of tend to stay there. Like, once they're on a crew and they're dialed and they like the crew, the squattie's not going to be leaving like every 3 to 5 years. It just doesn't happen. So let's talk about that, man. Like, crew life in general and like opportunities that are out there, just like some unique differences that it is unique to crews that not really like Helitack or engines or other types of crews out there have.
Yeah, I mean, for Ruby, like I said, I've been on Ruby for 13 years now, came and watched a lot of dialed guys leave.
Mm-hmm.
And at least I think it just comes down to location. And then as you come up, like they talked about converting people to PFT, once you get into your 30s, you're having kids, people are getting married.
Yep.
Pretty much everyone that I talk to, all the alumni, we're down here in Reno tying in with them. And they're always curious about the crew because you go through all that stuff with them. But they'd say, you got to do it because of your family, location. Maybe they can't move their wife, significant other. It takes a few people that'll do it, but most people won't. So location, at least our crew, like traditionally 3 to 5 years, then you're getting that hard turnover. So if you are smart and you are looking for, to move up super quick, Ruby's the way to go.
Yeah, and I'd kind of second that with Midnight Sun Hotshots. I mean, there was a soup that was there for a long time and retired in that position. But after he left, I think 2009 was his last season. Quite a bit of of turnover. And I think people get up, they move up into like the squad leader ranks, tour duties start getting extended a little bit, and they kind of hit a hard decision. It's like, am I going to move here and this is going to be my life, or am I going to go do something else? And I think a lot of them go do something else. Like I was able to move up pretty quick through the midnight sun hotshots, kind of for that same reason. It's like people don't want to live in Fairbanks in the winter because it's 40 below and dark and
expensive as fuck.
So,
yeah, for me, I took every opportunity that came. I put in for details. I had been in the Marine Corps, and I was just basically trying to get my rank and leadership ability back. And instead of a gun, I had a chainsaw or a radio at one point. But I definitely had to move around. I commuted for 2 hours to go to Big Bear. So it was a 2-hour turnaround. Either way, staying up there, living up there in the barracks. So just a lot of sacrifice. But, in order to get that next jump, it was definitely a lot of sacrifice. And I think a lot of people are doing that now. There's a lot of dudes, especially down at South Ops. You didn't used to work on different crews. You didn't want to go there. You weren't welcome. I definitely was an outsider at Del Rosa when I got my squad leader job. I didn't get the detail there. I was not the pick. I think I ended up being the pick after I proved myself. But, but now there's a lot of people that are willing to move around for opportunity. And maybe they figure out that a location that might not be the most ideal works out for one reason or another. Some people's wives like to slow down and some like to speed up. And
whatever flavor works for you, right?
Yeah. And like down in Vegas, we don't get a lot of people that want to come work there because all they see is the lights of the strip, and they don't know that, 15 miles west is nothing. It's Red Rock followed by the Nevada desert.
Aliens and shit.
Yeah. So we get these guys that want to go work in the middle of nowhere. And we're like, dude, Nevada is the middle of nowhere. It works for Carson, Reno, Vegas, anywhere of those places. You drive 30 miles and you're nowhere.
It's a cool thing about Nevada, though. It's like everything, and we had this discussion too, and I don't want to like plug any like bitchin' spots. Like I would try and keep our secrets as like landmarks and cool shit to see in Nevada, like kind of under wraps. But like, think about the road systems here. You got like 395, you got 50, you got 80. It's like all the shitty parts of Nevada. All the cool stuff is like well off the beaten path. And that's the cool thing about crews is you get a unique opportunity to see all that shit, especially in Nevada, man. And then even going out of state off district, right? You get to see all the other cool shit that's pretty much been untouched by humanity. And for Handcrews, Vegas Handcrews, they're fucking awesome. You guys are awesome. I've worked with you guys a lot. Worked with Ruby. I've worked with Silver State. I've worked with Black Mountain. I've worked with all these crews, man. And it's cool because you get to do a lot of cool shit. Like tip of the spear, right? Hotshots, I mean, what's an average day in the life of a hotshot for the people that are thinking about getting into there? Obviously, if you're on a hotshot crew, you know what to expect. But for those folks looking to jump into the ranks of shotting, let's take it there, man.
There I was, deep in a stump hole in the center of Nevada, covered in fire beetles.
There I was in a 12-foot overhead Velcro brush, looking at my saw partner who was equally dying, asking him if he had any water left, and it was only 12 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, what makes hot-shotting fun is you look down the line, you're hurting, and I look over and see Chase, and he's hurting a lot more than I am. And then you just smile and you just say you're doing okay.
Yeah. Kind of that embrace the suck mentality, but yeah, you're all sharing. You're all eating the same turd sandwich at the end of the day, but you're getting shit done. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd say being a hotshot, I'm super biased because that's really all I've ever done, but probably the best job in fire for sure. And it's like people in fire, it's like, whether it's a detail or whatever, it's like, I would recommend everybody like at least get that experience, that camaraderie. It's like whether early season PTing as a crew or even on the fire line, it's like the amount of work that a group of motivated humans can accomplish is like impressive. Like I remember after long shifts, like looking back and, putting like a 3-mile swath through the tundra and AK, and
like a highway.
Looking back and seeing the highway that, the crew was able to put in over a few days. It's like, it's always impressed me. And, I've met a lot of great people and people that I still keep in touch with to this day through that job and kind of, I guess, through that, the misery that we endured together. So I don't know. Best job in fire.
And then you get a spot over that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that keeps like the guys coming back, or maybe even initially attracts them, is you never really know for sure what a day in the life of a hotshot looks like. Just because it's rapidly changing, there's always something new. Usually when you start to get in a groove and you think you know what the day is going to look like is when you do get that spot, or somebody else needs your help, or a different division becomes a new priority, or you think you were going to go to Reno, but you get turned and next thing you know, you're in Southern Idaho. You thought you were going to R&R somewhere cool like the GSR, and instead you end up in Alamo.
I like just the diversity of people. Sure, there's diversity that you can put on a spreadsheet, but just, I remember, running my crew, I had an individual that was an attorney, past the bar. He was an attorney. Had an individual that, quite a few out of South LA, like just some hard living. Mm-hmm. You had people coming from wealth, just good, solid middle class people, and just to come together and form that team and kind of shift and get them to drink your Kool-Aid, become that like-minded, program and just get out and get shit done. And coming together on the side of the hill with other crews, other soups, and having that vision and that strong forward lean is just, it's freaking awesome. And, in other parts of our fire community, you can get some of that, but I just haven't been able to match it, fully. And yeah, just, you're just there to get shit done.
Yeah.
And some days just suck. And some days are what you see on YouTube. You really, you see some badass stuff like what you see on YouTube. But I remember one year our crew video was like no fire, like it's no open flame, like no tree torching, no big burnouts. Like they did it anyways, but it's
none of the hero shit.
Let's show like what this other.
I always thought it was funny that Hotshot crews put so much aircraft, like, because coming from Southern California, they would just put like the air tanker montage. That was like 2 minutes of air tankers just blasting with like a white or blue hero or red hat in the back. And I'm like, I asked the guys one year, do you think that the tanker base, when they put on their end of the year crew video, is just like a bunch of lines of hotshots on the ground getting painted with retardant, and that they have like a 4-minute montage of helicopters like ditching loads on the dudes, or like, bringing in sling loads of water, or like, and of course the answer is no. Yeah. Well, then why are we including so much aircraft in ours? Like, is that the only thing you got?
We had to limit the amount of bucket drop videos on the Ruby Mountain crew video for that reason. We're like, all right,
no more than 2 clips.
Yep.
You understand?
Had to cap it.
Well, we get it. That's the only time that you're kind of standing around, because nobody wants to be the guy that gets caught when you're supposed to be digging or cutting, taking a video of your buddy. I definitely started to see the importance in those times because it was lacking so bad. But who's the right person to do that? Like, I always thought, when I'm not on the saw, I'm going to set up a tripod and I'm going to put it on a time lapse. That way you can see all these bushes go away and then the dig comes by. And I never, ever took the time to do it.
Probably don't even have time to do it.
Well, it was always this thing in the back of my mind that I was going to make time to do it, and I never did.
Well, that's one of the things though, too, is like, I had this discussion a couple of times with some other folks as well, but like the whole, like, draw the pros and cons of like social media and like taking some photos and sharing them with your friends, or you're on your Instagram or fucking whatever. Right. I think it's really powerful because, especially on the Hotshot community, man, it's like Fight Club. You don't talk about Fight Club, right? You don't talk about your day-to-day operations. You don't have a lot of like storytelling involved, especially with hotshots and smoke jumpers. Right. But the importance of telling that story, like in a public fashion, I think it's critical to telling your story and promoting our agencies and what we do, the good we actually do. Yeah. Do we light a lot of shit on fire and cut down a lot of trees? Yeah. But it's a necessary evil to accomplish the mission, right? Got to sacrifice some acres to save a lot of acres, right? So what's your guys' stance on that? I mean, obviously, granted, there is a time and place for doing the fucking hero shot, the do it for the gram stuff, right? But do you think that's like one of those things that you've seen change over the years, like where it's more acceptable, like socially and culturally acceptable to like share that story? And what's your thoughts on it? I mean,
I'm gonna beat you to the punch there because I was fortunate with the crew I ran. It was and as a soup, it was a little bit sooner, and we had that hard line, no cell phones on the line, period.
Yeah.
Unless you were in a leadership role for a reason.
Dick.
Exactly. And one, it was just more for the awareness factor.
Essay.
And trying to not be like just no cell phones because I said so, but really trying to tie together to the reason why, the intent. But also I think there's a difference in telling the story and bragging.
Oh, 100%.
And I think Instagram, the Facebook, the tweets, whatever, there's way too much bragging and not enough humility.
Yeah, they're doing it for the ass and the glory, basically.
The clickbait, whatever you want to call it. And for me, I try to really be a humble person, and I always try to teach and mentor like humility. Be confident but be humble.
Yeah.
You don't need to post all this badass shit. Like the badass shit that we do. We know the shitty stuff, the boring, the mind, whatever. But you don't need to advertise it. But there is a time and a place to sell the story, to paint the picture, and show the sacrifice as well. And I think as an agency, the BLM, I think we have good entities that are trying to show that and capture the sacrifice and the hero shots and just the human aspect.
That's a big one right there, the human component of it, right?
Exactly. But what you lose with that individual posting on Instagram or whatever, it's for what?
Yeah.
Like for what? Just to be like, yeah, look at me. That's my opinion.
Hey, look, I'm a firefighter.
Exactly. Pull it, go to, here's my fire. I don't know. That's how I kind of see it.
And I actually found that, I know it's probably not the case nationwide, like all the firefighters, because I know there's some good people that post some good stuff on social media, but I kind of found that the people, first, second year hotshots that are most active on posting the glory stuff on their social media were actually generally like the lowest performers on the crew.
Yeah.
Generally. And I know that's, generalization. I'm sure it's not the case everywhere.
At least very distracted. Like they might be a very good cutter and they want to produce, but they're distracted throughout the day multiple times trying to get those, or when they should be doing something differently, they're doing it in a different way to show a different perspective on social media.
Yeah.
I personally got my ass kicked in recruiting this year by social media, and by not having like a crew page. And for me, we're going to need to do something, because I've literally had guys call back and say, hey, I'm going to go here because they have more of a social media presence. I don't know that that's everywhere yet, but I had multiple people tell me that, which I said, good. I think it's a great recruiting tool. It's a good way to sell the changes within your program. And like, for me, I want to highlight like the barracks, because we have great facilities in Southern Nevada.
You guys are still out of Red Rock, right?
Yeah.
That place kicks ass.
I want to, highlight the people, not the action of like, not the big picture of the guy cutting the tree or the big burnout. Everybody's seen that, but this is this person, this is a story. The internal workings of the BLM webpage, they have two separate things. So they highlight people in one, and then we have the firefighter photo contest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of all the hero shots, where a guy does set up a camera in his downtime and take some rad picture of a BLM engine with the northern lights in the background. But they're more calculated than that. But
yeah, it was like planned out. But when the northern lights are going, it's nighttime. It's not like you're out on a line. And I see the utility in it. And like you said there, I don't think it's necessarily people following or joining up for a crew just because of their social media presence, because that's a bullshit excuse.
I think there is at least one crew that people join, if not a few, that people join for social media.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you're tied in with one of those crews that has a big following, you are going to personally get a bigger following. And that's why people have social media. It's the dopamines that come, the heart rate that comes with checking it. And
it's no different than gambling.
That somebody thinks you're cool.
Yeah, but you think about when we're spiked out or we don't have cell service. Think about what the crew does.
They talk
with no.
They talk to each other.
They're talking. They're coming up with unique things. The crew
awesome
the crew
stuff,
bonding's going on, and then when we get back into service, and we've been out for, let's say, 6-7 days, these guys are chomping at the bit. Soup and foreman's going in and they got service. Where are they getting this stuff? And it's like, things are different, but like, you can get them service, but the crew their production and everything's a lot better when they're not distracted.
Yeah, and that cohesion is lost. I mean, when I started you had a cell phone. Our soup probably let us bring them to the line or didn't really know or care, but they didn't work.
No,
I mean, as soon as you drove out of a major city, they didn't work. You didn't have service.
Dude, I had a Motorola flip phone.
Yeah, and so it wasn't even a thing. And if you took a picture, it was so grainy and crappy that you weren't really proud to show it off, and they couldn't, you couldn't see all the detail and the cap base of this tree and all this stuff. And it's changed a lot.
There's crews out there with dedicated photographers, which, I mean, and I know the crews that you're talking about, I'm not going to like call them out or anything like that, because sometimes they do good work. I mean, there's also, crews out there that happen to have a large social media following that might be, if I've worked with them in the past, they might not have been the best, or they could be actually pretty fucking dialed. It's the good and the bad, and that exists anywhere within our community, with our crews, with our Helitat crews, anything out there. But I think that going back into like the social media following, I think that they have that following. I don't necessarily think that people are joining up with that crew specifically for that. I just think they have a better storytelling mission. They're communicating visually, right? They're telling their story. But I'm
not going to call those crews out either, but they're there.
Yeah.
I'd just rather work with a badass crew that gets shit done, and then I don't need to go and check it out on the website to see if
it's like that analogy right there, right? Once you're in the pros, once you're in the NFL, why fucking gloat? You're there. You're a pro. You don't need to tell people you're a pro. You were there. You don't need to gloat about it, right? And that's what the Hotshots are. You're in the fucking pro leagues, man. So,
and I do know that, maybe this table here, that vision might be biased towards one direction, because, as you shift your culture and it comes up through the ranks, and, that individual I hired, in 2008, when they start running a crew here in 5 years, they might have that different perspective. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, is that right or wrong? For me, that's not how I jive. It's not my jam, but I don't think I'm not going to call it wrong either.
Yeah. It's just an individual thing, man. I think it's one of those things where it's like, it could be utilized for great good. Also, it could be like total type 2 shit, right? Mm-hmm. Just depends on what flavor.
And I know on Ruby, we kind of just operate under the mentality. It's like, we had a guy on the crew. I mean, obviously he would work, but he had full reign. Anything we're doing, if he stopped taking pictures or videos, like that was his job. He was the crew video guy.
Yeah. He was like the document.
Yeah, and there's been some really great crew videos that have been produced, but it's not something that we blast out there. You know what I mean?
No, that's a culture thing.
It's for the crew to like look back and reflect. You know what I mean? And I will give the BLM props, because they've done a good job of getting out with the crews and taking action shots, telling our story. And I really like that, because it's like we're able to just fully focus on the mission, get the work on the fire done. And they're dealing with, taking photos. Yeah, you might have somebody in your face taking a picture or taking a video or whatever. But that for me is, instead of having to absorb all of that and be like, all right,
it's just another duty as a sign.
You're the social media guy. You know what I mean? That's your job, is to deal with the social media. It's like, I think the BLM's done a really good job of kind of like coming in and like telling our story for us.
Well, they have. Yeah.
The photography, like the historical captures and all that, it's nothing new. I mean,
there's a tradition that's been going on.
Well, there's
forever,
people at South Canyon that had, cameras in their back, VHS camcorders in their backpacks, dudes that were carrying and actively taking fireline pictures.
Polaroids.
Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff that comes out, and like 2 More Chains and stuff like that. There's like these historical photos where there was a big event that happened, and somebody had a full size, like 35 millimeter camera in their pocket. So that aspect is nothing new. And like Chase said, I think that capturing those moments, especially for alumni, the crew, history, things like that, it's extremely important.
Oh yeah. I mean, think about all the traditions and like history behind hotshotting. Where is it all found? Only within the crews, right? That's something that I think that it's something that I kind of want to change eventually. I kind of want to put some of that stuff out. Obviously not like the funny ass stories that is crew secrets, obviously. But, just like a history, like all of your hitters in the game, man, that have maybe still been around or may have passed, and just capturing that moment. I think that there's a missing piece there, because we don't know shit about crews, man. It's like, there's like this element of mystery and mysticism, and it's just not told, man. In my perspective, at least, it's only told within crews. It's very tribal, and it's very like oral history. I don't know, man. I'd love to see it shown.
Yeah, there used to be I can't even remember where it resides, but part of the larger, fire leadership website or whatever. But you could used to nominate, leaders in the community to have their history. Somebody would sit down and spend a couple hours and try to get that oral history. And then of course, I don't know if the little Hotshot, history book's been updated for a while, but that's
U.S. Hotshots Association is in charge of that, right?
I think there's some drama surrounding that right now.
There is, yeah,
sure.
There is definitely that. And then, you look at just the different crews and how they view their history and their tradition. And, I know for me, when I was a soup, I really tried to involve, the alumni, those individuals that have come through, our particular program, involving the former soup, and involving the overhead and just like, the emails and hey, here's our crew party. It's not just, 2012 crew party. It's the crew's party, end of season closeout. You guys are all more than welcome to come. And just to bridge that gap from back in the day, this is how we do it now, and just getting that mix. And it was always met with mixed, reviews, I guess, if you will. But
I almost saw a good throwdown at a reunion, at a Vista Grande reunion. They had their 40th, and there's a guy that showed up in the old vest, so he's got the red historical Filson vest on from like the late 70s, I think. And he's like reading the rights to a group of dudes that are currently on the crew. And these guys are just taking it because this guy's older, Yeah. And finally, one of the dudes that's currently on the crew kind of just like gets in this dude's face a little bit and goes, well, how long were you on the crew for anyways? And he goes, I did 5.5 months. and this was one of those old school temps. He had done 11 years on the crew as a temp. And
so he was just too kindly to it.
Yeah, he was just like, he was humble about it, but he was like, well, man, like you might need to check your group that you're talking to, because like these guys are all full time. This guy's been a detailed squatty. This dude's been on the crew for 10 years. I've been on the crew for 10 years. And the guy was quite a bit taken back, but there was like this stigma at the start of it where all the guys with their red jackets and the guys who had been on the crew in the 70s and 80s, like didn't want to talk to any of the new dudes, but it got broken up over that. And a big vat of beer that got pushed into the middle.
Shut up, drink.
I don't want to digress this conversation too far, but I got a funny story. So a couple months ago, when I realized I was going to be leaving the crew and taking another job, my oldest daughter's 4.5, and I broke the news to her. I'm like, hey, just so you know, Daddy's not going to be a hotshot anymore. And she just got super quiet, started to see some tears build up in her eyes, and she's like, so we don't get to go to the hotshot parties anymore? We're still going to the hotshot parties, but I just thought that was funny because that's just been the crew, between Midnight Sun and Ruby. It's like since she was born, like that's been a big part of her life.
That's been super influential.
I thought that's funny. Like that's all she cared about. She doesn't care about me being around more. She just cares about the hotshot party at the end of the year. So
it's funny though, because like the culture thing though, it's like people that haven't had any experience in the hotshot realm, they look at hotshot crews and they're like, it's kind of like standoffish. It's like, oh, go over there. You can go over there. You can go fucking ask him for some help, But in the reality of it is that you guys are doing the same mission in a different capacity, but we're all there for the same mission, right? So as far as like clearing the air, as far as like that standoffishness or that like mysticism behind hotshot crews and crews in general, like how do you alleviate that? I mean, I know there's been a big change in culture, but also those old misconceptions about hotshot crews that still exist, man.
And I think it is kind of a misconception. It's like I've always been under the mentality, super humble. It's like whatever fire we're on, it's like we're there to help the situation. We're going to work well with others. I think there's a few instances, where like people are like, oh, I don't want to work with that soup, because he's a dick or whatever. But I think we've done a pretty good job at, being kind of the leaders on the fire line, and, whether it be a type 2 crew, engines, whatever, like bringing them into the organization and being open and communicating with them. You know what I mean? I know over the years, people are like, man, you're like the nicest soup I've ever talked to. I'm like, well, I think it's just the being humble about it. It's like the work that the crew does is impressive, but I think we've done a good job about remaining humble, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean,
check your ego. And that's like how many crews out there want that type 2 crew to come in and clean up behind them?
Nobody.
Bullshit. Like they have saws, take a leap, like help our guys out, like take that leap. That also, one, it helps our crew out. It gets them that experience. Hey, we're going to burn. We have a big burn op going on. Hey, engine crew that's helping support. You got somebody that's never ran a torch. Let's throw them in. How many times you say, actually say thank you to that camp crew that's, past couple of years, it hasn't been hot buckets, but handing you your food.
Yeah.
Like that crew member on my crew, say thank you. Say, hey, how was your whatever? Like check that ego. Like be humble. Don't be some cocky prick that nobody wants to work for.
Don't be an asshole. That's a pretty good general rule of thumb for life.
Yeah, exactly. And just shake hands. When you're bumping down the line, bumping through another crew, whatever type it might be, or contract or whatever. Like, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
And just really trying to teach that and practice that as a soup. And leadership, and even outside of the crew world, like just check that ego.
It's funny too how that'll like follow people. You know what I mean? Like I can think of a few throughout my career who just had these reputations, like they've gone through and pissed enough people off that even if they do try to leave, they can't get another job just because there's this, it's a small community, and like that stuff,
super small.
That stuff matters, and people know. You can build up a reputation pretty easy.
Catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely those people out there where if you're an ops chief and you look at the incoming crews, you're just going to cringe because you know that you've been putting together this big plan and you've been there for a week, and this guy's going to show up on day one and start pointing at ridges 3 miles out, or he's going to go, I think I can go in this drainage and go direct on that with just no outside intel. And I know some of those people, and I used to have that mentality in my head of like, if these guys haven't went in and gone direct on it, why not? We will, and with no intel. And so definitely getting to the superintendent rank, it's a big, giant piece of humble pie. And for me, it was almost a start over. Like,
it's like relearning the trade.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, dude, I can't be this brash, rough dude. Like, I'm not a lead sawyer anymore. I'm a superintendent. Like, when I was coming up, we didn't talk to other crews, even if they were the other district crew. And that had to go away real quick, because these are guys that I'm going to work with the rest of my career. They're going to come to my crew. Like, my soup didn't treat people like that. But like in the crew member ranks, we were too cool for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, that was just the crews I was on. But as I came up, it had to trickle away. And I think the last of I hate to say gritty because I like that word. And I expect a certain amount of grit. But I think the super abrasive people that are impossible to work with are phasing themselves out.
Yeah, they kind of weed themselves out.
I hope so anyways, because it is nice to go somewhere and meet up with, another crew, and not just another person, but another crew that you truly trust and you've built a relationship, and that they're going to take that leap. Or if they do ask us to hold a piece of line for them while they continue to burn, I'm not going to get 3 or 4 of their squad leaders trickling back through to come triple check my work, or something like that, because they know we're back there doing our best too.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a culture change too. How collective age in this room, I want to say, is what, between late 30s to mid 40s ish.
No, I'm not going to say
mid 30s,
39.
Copy that. It's like paper, rock, scissors, see who goes first there. I'm 36, man. I don't have a lot of time in the game, but what I've seen over the course of my time in fire is this transition from like the old school, like the tail end of the old school, this transition phase. And then now we're going into the new school. And like a lot of crews that I've worked with in the past, they were like that shut the fuck up and dig kind of mentality that don't talk to each other.
Yeah. Old school is not an excuse to be an asshole. Like, that's not an interchangeable term. You're not allowed to say, oh, well, I'm just old school. It's like, no,
that's a fucking cop out, dude.
Just swap it back. Like, no, you're just an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, if you're old school, then, you drank with everybody on the district at a district party 3 nights a week, and you didn't hide out at the Hotshot base. You're just an asshole that comes in and tells everybody that you know what you're doing and nobody else does.
Yeah. But I think, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so yeah, I've definitely seen that shift in my career. And when the first year that I took the soup job, I had, what I viewed as an old school soup, former soup for Black Mountain that retired, and and I've never worked for him. Maybe some Black Mountain, crew members will disagree, but the nicest guy, one of the nicest hotshot soups that, that I've ever worked with and just fortunate to be like, oh, I'm sitting at the same table as this guy. But, had that, maybe that old school mentality of, just work ethic or tactics or whatever it might be, but just super nice guy. And it was just like, that's super cool. It's not this dick. It's not this asshole that nobody wants to be around.
Yeah. I know when I was coming up on the Suns, there was still some of that kind of old school mentality that you were talking about, and I kind of like looking back, I feel like our lives got made more miserable for no real reason. It's like a miserable job. And like, I kind of felt like the overhead at times were like going out of their way to make our lives more miserable. Working super hard and then getting told you're a type 2 crew basically, and kind of just demoralizing and crushing you down all the time. And one thing I did when I moved into the soup world is I kind of reflected back, and like there was a lot of good fire tactically, there was a lot I learned. There's a lot I learned about leadership from my past soups. And like, so when I rolled into the Suns and even when I came to Ruby, it's like the mentality was, it's like the high standards, the organization, the work ethic, the physical fitness. It's like all of that stuff can remain the same, but we're just not going to treat people like shit all the time. And we're going to let them have a voice. You know what I mean? And it's like, that has been super successful. And I think that's that generational, that shift you're talking about, like younger soups are coming in and it's like, they've got different ideas,
different perspectives, still accomplishing the same thing, maintaining the high standards, but just treating people good and, demonstrating like real leadership versus just, that militaristic style, shut up and dig. I think we were just talking about that in the room there. So
it was even better in the military. I try to tell people all the time, we were a very far outpost.
I never thought I'd hear that from a Marine.
Well, we were a very far outpost in Iraq and they got us mail. They got blown up all the time getting it to us, but they got us mail. They got us food. We didn't always have to eat shit. And I definitely worked for a lot of superintendents that did care, and they tried to treat everybody right. But I saw a lot of mistreatment of just, hey, we're here for the night. And if you don't have an MRE in your pack, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Which is
bullshit,
that was,
dude.
Those are actual, that's a quoted freaking word. I'm not going to say from who or what crew, but that's a direct quote.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. You got to take care of your people, right? I mean, if you are a prick, no one's going to work for you. You're not going to have the same motivation. You're not going to have the same outcome of work output, right? You're not going to have any of that camaraderie. You're not going to have any of that shit that hotshot crews are traditionally known for.
I don't know. Some of these crews were able to do it. Like they were able to have like these rough, like gnarly soups, and they wouldn't have a very high turnover. Like, and I think the bros would the boys would just be so tight. Yeah. Because they were getting treated a certain way that like nobody would leave. It was like, dude, you're stuck here in the ship with me.
It's like a fear culture almost.
Yeah, like we're gonna eat this shit together.
Yeah.
It's
like they're trying to like keep each other in the game. But it's like that's another thing too. That's like a topic of concern. It's not even a topic of concern. It's just a topic of culture that we have in fire. And it doesn't matter if you're on a hotshot crew, a smoke jumper, hell attack, whatever. We have this suffer culture that we embrace. And arguably you guys on the line are eating it the most, I want to say. So
I still like that grind, the suffer fest. Now
it's enchanting, dude. It is.
So I mountain bike and I have, you're going to get an e-bike. Well, no, I'm not going to get an e-bike.
I'm going to pedal my ass up the hill.
Because I like the grind. I like that suck. I like that physical, like, when you get to the top, you're just like, all right, now it's downhill, which is even tougher than going uphill, and that's like, I equate that to, there's the suck, like we always joke about the suck, like, but then there's just that suffer fest of just like hard days work, carrying heavy stuff, having your line blown over to where you got to go find another ridge. Like, but that's a good grind, but just like working with somebody almost. That's just beat you down or fear-based leadership is not. Fear-based leadership isn't, if you lead by fear, you're not going to last.
Yeah.
And trying to just expel that from any type of skill sets you have, but that grind, that suck, that getting after it, like for me, that's a good feeling. That's why I'll never own an e-bike in the foreseeable future.
So this episode is sponsored by, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, there's the intended things that make it the difference. Like the hard day's work is the reward that you get when it does suck. It's like you can look at a solid accomplishment and all the things that suck go away.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that like not necessarily the sufferfest, but the mistreatment that arises, it's intentional. And that part is hopefully what's going to be gone. Like
the bullying shit, blatant like fucking harassment and bullying.
Or just like the things to like screw with people's lives. Yeah. Like the if you have a soup that I had one that just chased every single minute of overtime that he could get. And so we worked a bunch of 6th and 7th day. And we would go to project work on those 6th and 7th days because he said that we were getting paid overtime. So we should work 1.5 times harder. So we would just go eat shit on what should be our days off. And we wouldn't be on fires or anything. We'd just have some severity money laying around. Or the people who, like without good intention would drag their feet on the road just to like screw with the days off. So you didn't get 3, you only got 2, or you only got, 1, or those intentional things is what I think is like the mistreatment factor, the suck factor, and the suffer factor, as you said, that's embraceable.
Yeah.
That's what keeps people around for some reason.
It kind of makes you feel alive, man.
What do you talk about? All of us, that one time when you're on that ridge without a jacket, the suck. You never talk about really the good times where.
No, you only talk about the suck.
Exactly.
That line held, yes.
The times, I mean, the funny, it's I guess it's the times that you talk about is like the suck fest, right? You always like talk about that, especially with inner crew, right? Because you're all there together for the most part. And then it's always the funny shit too. Like the funny stories. You remember that time that dude fucking kicked a rock down the hill or something like that? And it's some funny shit, right? And I think that's what keeps the culture alive. And I think it's it's a very important part of our culture as firefighters to keep that thing going, right? It's like Hotshot crews got their traditions. They've got their training. Same thing with engines, same things with Hotshot crews. And that it all plays into the part of the story that we're trying to tell, right? But no one's really doing the job of telling it besides between crews. Like on the
Well,
crew.
we're here right now.
There we are. So
I mean, you actually got, a couple current and a couple former in the same room, which I don't know 10 years ago if that would have happened in front of a microphone.
No, it wouldn't. There's no way, man. It's just like it's like having news crews show up to a fire. What does everybody do?
Scatter.
Ghost town, right?
Yep.
Not me, man. I was on Telemundo.
Telemundo, nice.
Yeah, they interviewed a friend of mine at the Thomas Fire, and they said that his Spanish was actually worse than his English, and that they would just subtitle over me instead. So,
see, it's funny shit like that, right?
Yeah.
That's the stories that people like remember forever across their lives. If you've been through a Hotshot crew, and like that's something that all that crew is going to remember, right? That's funny shit. But who else are we telling? Are we telling our family that? Man, maybe not necessarily. I don't know, man.
I don't know. There's a lot that you don't tell your family.
Yeah.
I will say
I
that.
spent my entire career like not being very open with my wife. Up and to include like where we were. Like I didn't want her to know where exactly we were because she had access to
all the
kind
shit.
of figure out what we were doing, and that it actually did suck in like a safety aspect.
So personal question for you. Did you not tell her? Because I'm guilty of the same thing, right? I'd not tell my significant other, like my wife or anything, where I was going, what fire I was on. I would purposely not do that. She'd figure it out because she has access to InstaWeb or whatever, she can look that shit up. It's public knowledge. But I came into the thing I came into the point where I was like, it's not worth telling her just in case some shit does happen or there's an incident. I don't want her to be like calling every fucking district office or everybody just to see if I'm, injured or if like something happened or if it's my crew or something like that. So I think it was like kind of a defense mechanism for me. Why I wasn't saying the quiet shit out loud.
It was some of that. It was also that I didn't want to only engage. Like I didn't want my wife necessarily asking me questions about the fire.
Yeah.
Like when I did talk to her, I didn't want to talk about the fire. I wanted to talk about what was going on at home or just anything. Like before we had kids, just what she had been doing. She would ask me about the fire and I just didn't really want to talk about it. And I'm more
it's
open
fucking
now.
work. You don't want to talk about work. You don't want to drag the shit home.
Yeah, and
it's hard not to.
I've had to engage because now I have kids. But when I was coming up on the crew, I didn't call home like hardly at all.
Mhm.
I was just trying to stay tactically engaged at a high level, do my job the best. I'd call her once, before we went to spike out or before we might be coming back to camp every night. I didn't call because I had other things to do.
Yeah.
And so I tried to stay really focused on that, but I eventually had to get an iPhone. That way I could FaceTime the kids,
Yeah. And it sucks, man. You take a lot of time away from home, man. Hotshotting, crew life. It's fucking hard on the family, man. It is.
I had an epiphany just now when he was talking about his wife, but a few weeks ago we were talking about getting on a team, being a division on a team, and like she was like, "What's a division?" And I'm like, we've been together long enough, and then I just had the epiphany that I'd never actually talk about work. So
that's a good thing, though.
I just kind of
to some degree, it's probably a good thing.
Some of these guys, you'll hear them on the phone and they're giving like a full, like almost an operational briefing to their wife. Like, oh yeah, we're on division. Like I know one in particular, he's a unfocused squad leader, unfortunately, but he gives his wife like a full operational debrief of the day. I don't know if maybe that helps him debrief, but
yeah,
she's got to be at least fairly dialed.
I know one thing I've always done, and I still the last few seasons, I've kind of operated the same way. It's like I would just touch base with home periodically, just because I felt, I'd seen people like, throughout the years, like almost break just because, they're talking to their significant other every night and they're like missing this stuff at home. And I found just for me, just touching base periodically, it's like, I don't know if it was the right answer or not, but it kind of like helped me get through the role. You know what I mean? Stay focused on what the crew is doing. And it's like because the thing is, it's like you can't do anything. If there's stuff going on at home, it's like, yeah, you could leave the fire if something really bad's going on. But it was like, can't really, those little things, it's like you can't really change. So it's like,
you go out to the power's out, go check the breaker box. Well, open the fucking door and see if the breakers are tripped, right?
Yeah.
Well, 99% of the stuff that happens, I don't know if the percentage is that high necessarily, but there's a lot of stuff that I just place absolute trust in my wife. And if I don't talk to her for a week, she's already got it figured out. There's like very few things that are like, hey, we need to talk about this thing right now and figure it out. Like if the breaker box does go out, like
she'll figure that
luckily
shit out.
She can call my dad or a friend or whatever, I don't know how she pays these guys. I'm just kidding. But, like I put the same trust in my wife as I put in an assistant on the crew because she is my absolute counterpart. And when I come home, she's my superintendent and I'm her captain, like I try to come home like, how do I fit into your plan? How do I help you? What do you need from me? Like, don't change your schedule. Just let me, I'll hold the line for you while you burn.
Yeah. You go ahead, bump ahead, start dragging torch and I'll hold and improve.
Yeah. And the guys that call home every day, I mean, if you are one of those guys, it's no big deal. But it's like,
whatever works for you, man.
It's like getting shot with a BB gun every day because the same problem, like the breaker box thing, you're going to talk about it for the next 3 or 4 days, even though the problem got solved.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, when that happened, it was such a pain in my ass. And me, I'm like, I'd rather take 1 to the head than 2 to the chest, just give me the bad news once every 7 days and I'm good.
Yeah. Just get it over with, rip the Band-Aid off. Right? Well, that's the cool thing though about, I guess some changes. And speaking of the new school, I guess there's probably some policy changes and just the way we do operations as far as crews. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but what do you think about the new like 3 days off? I know we're not really all on board with that, but I know that there is a lot more flexibility to like pick up somebody else, pick up a fill, right? And, if you're squatty or somebody on the crew needed to go to a wedding or like a birthday or a family reunion or some shit like that, there's a lot more flexibility built into the system now to where we're aware of this shit and we have the opportunities to send people off. It's not like the old school where it's just like, hey, you're expected to be here for fucking 8 months every day.
What's it going to hurt?
Yeah.
Does it matter in the big picture if a crew takes 3 or 4 days off? If my operation rests solely on one crew being here,
something's wrong.
Then we failed, which we have failed. But why not? The first couple of years as a soup, screw that. Actually, it took maybe the second year as a soup. I was like, we're going to take a week off in July. And I was fought tooth and nail by leadership.
No shit.
Tooth and nail. You can't. I was like, why not? We
Summer
were
vacation.
tired. And in 2008, as a squatty, I started to take 2 weeks off in August to go backpacking with my dad. It sucked, like losing out on the overtime, but that's awesome. So why wouldn't we continue and even provide more? Like let we trust the superintendent to lead 22 humans with $500,000 worth of assets and some of the gnarliest shit out there
with some of the highest trained professionals in the industry.
But we don't trust their perception of like, hey, I need 4 days off.
Yeah.
For the crew, you know, and that's where it's just like, you know, why not? You want to take a week off paid? Let's do it. Let's figure it out.
Well, here's a question for you. Did you have like an overwhelming sense of guilt? Because as a superintendent, your job is to take care of your folks, right? If they're that GS3 seasonal and they're struggling during the winter, they got an opportunity to make all the fucking money that they need to make in that short season, right? Did you guys have some guilt that you would carry with you if you would take off and maybe put them down? Or do you have guilt like saying the what ifs, like, does my captain got this? Does this person have this? Is this person going to be okay? Do you carry that shit with you?
I know I did. So the year that we took, I tried to get a week off in July. It was, you know, we were busy, and with Lone Peak early on, like we put a lot of focus on the crew members. I want to get these crew members as much experience as they can, as much overtime, as much pay as they can get, because we would only have them for 2 years, maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I'd push them out to the other crews or whatever it might be, you know. And so yeah, to stand down for a week in July, you heard about it. But what I tried to do is shift my focus. Okay, well, what about the leadership that's been here for 5, 7, 8 years? I'm breaking them off.
Yeah.
When we're doing 1,400 hours of overtime in a season, you know, that crew member after 2 years, they're done.
Yeah.
But
They're
my
tango.
leadership's still there. So yeah, to hear that second year crew member bitching that we're taking a week off in July, but then to hear about somebody that went to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Like, fuck yeah, with their family.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I know it, you know, it wasn't mandated within with the DOI, but last season on Ruby, every R&R we took 3 days. And for me personally, it's like I was able to get out and do things with my family just that extra day that I would never do on 2 day with 2 day R&Rs, you know, trip to Salt Lake, trip up into the Rubies, you know, doing real summertime things that like when you have 2 days off, you can't really do. And, you know, I know some folks like within the BLM, it's like they're making that decision based on, you know, the assignment or whatever. And like, from my perspective, it didn't matter what we did on the fire. It's like, we were gone for 16, 17 days. It's like, we're going to take 3 days off and like give people a chance to like, at least somewhat a chance to have a little bit of a life in the summertime. You know what I mean? And I think it was super successful. And you know, if I was still running Ruby, it's like, we'd be doing 3 days again this summer too, just because I think it, you know, it made a big difference.
Oh yeah. And you get the time to do shit, right? Even if something comes up, like say you got to go, I don't know, you're buying a house and you go sign title, right? That takes a long ass time. It takes multiple days sometimes. So you have the opportunity to do that shit during the summer, like peak season. That's pretty cool, man.
Now, the direction that we got from our leadership when we asked the question at the Handcrew committee, you know, like, are they going to mandate the 3 days? They said they don't want to mandate it. And at first I thought, okay, well, you know, why not? And then the reasoning behind it was, we want to give you guys as superintendents the tactical and operational flexibility to, if there's a good reason to do a 2 day turnaround that makes sense for you and your crew, by all means do it. Mm-hmm. You know, and the only one that I could really think, and from my perspective, and it would be a selfish, like overtime based decision, which I hate overtime based decisions, but it would be
a good motivator though.
You know, it would be, I really don't like them. There's so many bad overtime based decisions, but
we're all guilty of it.
It would be to get back on, like if you had every crew in the GAC coming back on the 19th and you had the opportunity to come back on the 18th and get a guaranteed like late season role or a very early season. But there, with that same thought process, is the GAC still going to clear out regardless? And can I, or should I take that third day off? But what the intent from the leadership was, we want you guys to think tactically. We want you to engage in relationships with your folks, and really not just, like Chase was saying, like, don't base it on last assignment. Like, whose perception of does that deserve a third day? Like, who does that really fall on? And then they said, we also want to give you the flexibility to take more days if you want. So if we locked you into 3, then 4 would be an ask.
Yeah.
But if you need to take 4, basically tell us and tell the GAC that you would like to take 4. One of the things we did last year is we would just ask to extend a couple days and run it into a weekend. So we'd end up working 15 or 16, but we'd follow up with 5.
See, that's bitching right there. It's empowering. Like that change has empowered crews to make the right decisions for themselves and the crew, right? That's that operational independence. It's not really widely adopted across the nation, right? That's pretty bitching.
Well, and the guys, I mean, at first there's a little bit of chapping their ass, you know, because they all plan on this 14 thing, which I don't know why. Most of them, they're kind of new anyways. So they just have that 14 number in their head. When you tell them you're going to work 16 or 17, they all kind of go, oh. But when you follow it up with, hey, we're going to have 5 off, then it's like, oh, now I see the purpose and how it, you know, hey, we're going to run these 3 days off into our weekend and get 5.
Yeah. They haven't learned Hotshot math yet.
No, that
16's an age.
That takes a long time.
And I think, since I've departed, crew life to where we are today, like I have seen that shift, as have these guys on just that support for taking the time you need. And even, when I first started on the Hotshot crew, it was like, well, unless your time's scheduled off before the first day, you're not taking it off unless it's like an absolute emergency.
Yeah.
And I remember 2010, very good friend of mine proposed in like June. The crew had already been on and they were planning to get married in October and the crew was still going to be on. So I was shit out of luck. Like I was like, yeah, it's not going to happen. So I remember sitting on a snowstorm out of Beaver, Utah on like the Twitchell fire, like the 5th roll, super pissed off. Like this is dumb. And so, trying to shift that culture and that thought process of, you want to take time off? Cool. Just don't come to me Friday and say you need
give me a
week off starting tomorrow. Like let's figure it out, because it sucks if you're gone from the crew, but it's okay. Like we're only going to produce what we can produce. Doesn't matter if we have 18 or 23 or whatever it says on the side of your rig. Like you're going to get done whatever you can get done. And like I remember that like a couple of years of me taking time off in August, and finally I remember like one year I was able to get like a squatty and a lead to take some time off in August, and it was like yes, but it was like
a success.
It was a success, and to just show that it's okay. Like it will be okay. Like, sure, there's the guilt, there's the fuck, and just like, yeah, you're out
the
backpacking.
FOMO factor.
Exactly.
Yep.
And, you're thinking of the crew and what you're missing out on. And then when you come back, there's all these stories and you're just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I wasn't here, but just trying to shift that mindset and that culture, like I felt good with my program. We were starting to turn that tide. And I do think, as a whole, I'm sure there's districts or, for whatever crews that aren't shifting that way or don't fully believe in that. But I think as a whole, it's being normalized.
Yeah.
That conversation is better of like, yeah, we're going to take 4 days, maybe 5 days if needed.
Yeah. Well, it's the whole conversation around like taking care of yourself and taking care of others. I think that's changed dramatically over the last like 10 years, I want to say. I mean, it's acceptable. Like, hey man, I'm having a hard time at home. You mind if I like go handle some shit?
Yeah. Kick rocks. Let me know.
Well, maybe not this asshole. No.
Let me know when you want to come back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the answer. That if somebody says that, obviously there's a deeper conversation. Like, is there anything I could do to help you? Blah, blah, blah. But absolute support from the minute somebody asks like that. Yeah. No questions asked.
Yeah.
Like, let me know when you want to come back.
Yeah. Send it. If you like have a death in the family or something like that, and
again, no
fucking
questions
go,
asked.
dude. Like now, why are you still here? Right.
We'll figure it out later.
Yeah. And I think it's cool because it's even like the topical shit that just like grinds at us, right? We all have those like little, it's like death by 1,000 cuts conversations, right? And then it's socially and culturally acceptable now to like go to your squatty or go to your fucking saw partner or go to your soup and be like, hey man, can I get some shit off my chest? And a lot of times people are receptive to it. So it's definitely changed. And I think that's one of those misconceptions about hotshot crews, because you guys are the most dialed, the most highly trained, total operational independence, and you're ground truthing, ahead of the fire. You're basically giving like the ops team what the plan is going to be for tomorrow and like long-term strategy on fires. This is some high level shit that you guys do, right? But to still have the kindness and compassion for your crew, to have them come to you with an open door, that's a major change that I've seen. Something's going on. So.
We used to call it hotshot psychology. No offense to the psychologist out there. And sometimes it was very, very poor advice. But yeah, just trying to, what we're calling peer support now. And, just before we sat down in here, just this tremendous conversation around peer support. And, and like I said, we had no idea what we were doing. It's just like, oh, you want to talk about shit? Let's talk about some stuff. And no, you probably shouldn't kick puppies afterwards. But, just really trying to be open to that and recognizing that I don't know an answer. Like, I don't know, but let's talk. Let's just talk about how shitty it is. Okay, we need to find somebody because you are fucked up, and just being there to support them. And I've seen that a shift in my career from when I first started to where we are now, and feel pretty fortunate to kind of be in the middle of that as it was really trying to take shape of that, just being there for whoever you're working with.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very tough to do that too.
Oh yeah. You got to have
very
some
tough.
Extreme. I mean, being a hotshot, I mean, you're supposed to be the hitters of the fire, right? You're supposed to be the hardcore out in the lead, right? And to have that ego that comes along with that of the pro leagues, it's really hard to be vulnerable to people. I think that's one of those things that's kind of being talked about as well. So
I got a question last week. I was in Boise taking a class, and somebody turned to me and he's like, "Hey, I got some folks that have been asking me questions, and it's like, how do you create an open environment on a hotshot crew?" And my answer to him, you got to like actually live it. You know what I mean? I don't know how many bosses I've had that are like, "Hey, open door policy," but their door's always closed. Or a soup's like, "Hey, you could talk to me about anything," but then you don't hear, like, you interact with him like 2 or 3 times throughout the entire summer. You know what I mean? And I think to make it actually happen, it's like, you got to preach it, early on, day one. It's like, hey, if you guys, something comes up, it's like, we want an open environment. But then throughout the season, like the AARs, the end of the day debriefs, like initiating discussions and just getting that environment to a point where, the first, second year firefighters are actually comfortable bringing up issues they had, or, you know what I mean? Even if they want to come to me or Justin one-on-one and, create that environment. It's not just saying it. I guess it's the difference between saying there's an open door policy and actually creating an environment where there is an open door policy.
yeah, it's like the stupid question phenomenon, right? Everybody's circled up and there's always that rookie that may or may not have a stupid question. But I guarantee you, if that person asks the stupid question, 4 or 5 other people in that circle of people would be like, "Oh, fuck, I'm so glad he fucking asked that question." And
Glad he's going to get all the shit talking, not me.
Yeah,
Well, and how many times is the leader, the superintendent asking stupid questions just because they're like out of touch, like,
yeah, a little
hey,
disconnected.
and it's just something that you innocently ask because you want the truth answer.
Yeah.
And, the crew looks back at you, you're like, "Oh, that was my stupid question. Like, I'm out of touch with this specific thing, or I wasn't engaged. I was over here and I didn't know. And I'm just asking, hey, how's your guys' day?" And
The soup doesn't always know.
No, absolutely not.
You hear about shit like months later, like, "God, you guys really?" So one thing I wanted to add on with Chase, one thing that I've tried to shift my focus is open door policies. We've all heard them, right? Cool. Have an empty seat policy. Get out of your office, get out of your seat, get away from your computer. Because, if you're a soup, a squatty, a battalion chief, and whatever level of leadership, if you're clickety clacking because you're really important and you've got all this shit to do, yeah, your door's open. But if you're not paying attention, dudes, gals, whatever, they may not always be willing to come and walk in and shut the door and sit down. But get out of your seat. Have an empty seat policy. Get out and be present with those that you lead, whatever level you're at. And then to touch on, it's very easy to preach it, but I found it's very hard to practice it as an individual. Like, fully support the conversations that are taking place outside right now, the initiatives, the programs, the posters, the clinicians, fully believe in it. But to practice it, it's fucking hard.
Oh yeah.
Fucking hard.
I think most of the hotshot offices are set up tactically. I know the last crew I was on, there was 2 captains right outside of the superintendent's door. And if you walked in and shut the superintendent's door, you were going to get promptly met by 2 captains as soon as you came out. And that was, basically just to try to keep the chain of command tight. I think it was done with good intentions, poor execution. And I was not the approachable captain at the time. Like, total fatal flaw. I was trying to be. I was definitely preaching that, you can bring me your problems. And I had a few guys within my module that trusted me at that level, but not everybody did.
Yeah. We got to develop those relationships too. I mean, the new guy or girl coming into the crew, they're stone cold. They're not going to talk to anybody because they're probably fucking afraid, quite frankly.
Well,
they don't know.
The crew members know if they see the door shut to the office, something's up.
Yeah,
they're going to
down.
ask that person.
Yeah.
If the captains or the assistants see the door shut to the soup's office, they're going to know something's up. If a squattie's behind the building with a person having a conversation, they're going to know
Some shit's going down.
Yeah. So it's not always just the stigma from the leadership coming down. Like sometimes the crew members are hanging on to this, like, what are you doing in there talking to them thing, or like what went down in there. And I think it's mostly self-preservation. They're wondering if like they're talking about something from 5 months ago that they did when they stopped over in Elko. But I think the big thing is like trying to just teach the guys that it's okay to talk to each other. And when it's appropriate to tell your bro, like, hey man, like you should probably send this up. Like I think that, and there's certain people within the crew that they should suggest like, this is probably a problem for Bruington because he's been married, or this is probably a problem for Chase because he's had like a similar experience, and just kind of working that chain of command and navigating it can help those crew members pick and choose the right person. But the whole overhead has to be bought into the program of, helping each other and the peer support.
Well, it's like that accountability thing, right? You got to hold yourself accountable too. I mean, that's one of those things, dude. You can hold somebody accountable all day, but are you, at the end of the day, are you holding yourself accountable for all of these programs that we're trying to implement, right?
Yeah, and it's I think it's easier for me in the superintendent level to buy into the new programs. It's expected. I see the value in it from a high level. But I have to bring that home and work it from the top down. I have to work on the assistants to get them to buy in, and the squad leaders to get them to buy in and get them to buy at that same level.
Yeah, especially when you have a bunch of hard asses in the room. These are, like I said, the pipe hitters of the fire community. It's hard to get that culture changed, especially rapidly. Get stuck in your ways. But then again, I don't know if there's like you say, we all want to get rid of that ego thing, but there's still going to be some kind of element of that. It's like, who's the best hotshot crew? And if your answer isn't the one you're on, then we probably have a problem, right? So I don't know, man. It's a lot of changes on the horizon, but I think that overall, things are getting pretty dialed in. I think there's a big shift in culture, big shift in operations. There's for the better, some for the worse, man. And fair disclaimer, there is a time and place for like all the old school shit. There is, but not all the time, right? So I know you guys got to get out of here for lunch here pretty soon, but like one little last topic of discussion that I wanted to hit you guys with is why would you want to go into hotshotting? Like, what is the purpose? Obviously, the training's there, all that stuff, but like, what makes it worthwhile for you guys? Like, how would you sell your programs?
I can go first because I'm different, and then I'll let the Hotshots follow.
There we go.
So I run a veteran crew, and the BLM started the veteran crews for a very specific purpose, and it was to assist the hotshot crews. Like a dirty, dark secret.
Elliot told me about he doesn't want to go type 1 status. Like
I'm not.
You're not going to either?
Negative.
Copy that.
I have no plans on putting my finger in the mix or taking a slice of the pie that's already too thin. There's already enough bad hotshot crews out there. I don't want to engage in that pool. If anything, we should be shrinking the number rather than gaining them. I think there is value in type 2 IA programs.
I think it's too diluted.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do not want delusion, so I'm not going to join. But the BLM specifically implemented these crews to gain the vets off the top of the list. So the list used to go during hiring, we need to clear these vets. And it was any way you could. You'd call their number and hang up on them and say, oh, he didn't answer. Or there were some really dirty hiring practices that were going on. And some really smart people at BLM said, well, what if we just start these crews and we take these guys with no experience, but they have military experience, and we capture their experiences from the military. We give them a place to come and transition to. And we hope that they stay and they, go out like, to other hotshot crews. That's my main goal is like, I want to recruit good dudes, get them in, get them some experience. And I want them to go to Ruby and Silver State.
And you had that common background too.
Yeah. And so, for us, we specifically target the veteran crews. I was a veteran, and when I transitioned out, it was a really bad economy, 2009, and the job that I had lined up didn't work out. And so I came to the Hotshots as a last resort. My brother was a hotshot at the time at Del Rosa, and so I ended up on Mill Creek because I couldn't be there. And I just found home. It was the most solid transition, and I was respected for my military service within that crew. And I had to catch up really quick. I like the challenge. That's the environment that the veteran crews provide. It's a good transition point. It's familiar language. It's a little bit looser. You can grow your hair out and grow a beard, which the guys just love for some reason. That's like such a selling point, man. Like, you could look like me.
It's stark comparison from the military, right?
Yeah. And the looser chain of command, but similar structure and all that. They really, really like it. And then, just the overall intent, get these guys in, get them a couple years. Like, we try to go through a rapid firefighter 1 development because these guys have led men. They've engaged tactically at a high level. Most of them are NCOs that have a couple years of solid leadership day to day running younger people than them. We just have to teach them the fire aspect of it. And we can do that rather rapidly. Yeah. Like, to be a functioning entry level firefighter, like the firefighter 1 type, shouldn't take, like when I was coming up, there was dudes like 2-3 years to get their task books finalized. And we're not pushing people through that don't rate, but at the same time, we give people their credit for their prior service. And so I think the BLM vet crews have a special place in my heart for sure. I mean, I moved 4 hours away from home to work on a veteran crew.
I've worked with you guys in the past, man, and you guys are awesome.
Yeah.
You guys got a dialed crew.
Eric Ellison did a hell of a job bringing the crew along for a long time. But that's how I would sell our crew, man. It's crew cohesion. The vet crews are a very good place for transitioning veterans. It's familiar, but you can grow your beard, grow your hair looser. You don't got to call anybody by their rank, but familiar territory.
Yeah. Personal question for you, man. Did you find a lot of similarities between fire, like operationally and also like hierarchy wise? I mean, you kind of confirmed it there. I mean, I hate drawing the comparison between the military and fire because there is no comparison. When you're in fire, you're not getting blown up and shot at, right? No. Obviously, there's that stark comparison right there. But as far as everything else, though, is it pretty similar?
I don't know. I mean, I came up in Forest Service Region 5 on the San Bernardino. If you go back and look at fatalities in the last, handful of years, started 2006 and move up, like, we were hit really hard down there. So our dudes were getting dinged by trees and dying in vehicle accidents and, just bad shit. So for me internally, I mean, that part definitely is there. But the military runs on they have the exact same thing. They have regimental command teams that go to combat zones and they run that entire area of operations as a team.
So similar to a GAC.
Like, not even that, similar to a Type 1 team.
Okay.
So like, they were, to put it in hotshot terms, they were sending Type 1 teams to Iraq and Afghanistan who would go run operations. They would bring all their logistics functions, their air ops, all the same people are there doing the same functions as they would be on a fire, but they're doing it in combat. And then they would cycle out, but the units that were there would stay there. So I don't know who learned it for sure. Like, if the military learned it from, I know the military learned some logistics stuff for sure from fire. But like, instead of having like the finance, logistics, operations, and planning, they're called the S shops, and they do the exact same functions. So when I got here and they're explaining things to me, it's like, oh, okay, well, this, I'm taking, what is it, IS 700 or I 200 or one of those where they're talking about incident command teams. I could definitely draw the parallels of the two very quickly. The camaraderie and the fast developing relationships and teams that you're able to build is exactly like the military. I would say that the big difference for me was the level of engagement, because you're living at the barracks, you're getting paid salary, which could be a slippery slope with this portal to whatever their standby stuff. Very, very slippery. It's somewhere we shouldn't even go right now, but
it's going to get talked about, man.
In the military, I was living in the barracks. I was getting paid 24 hours a day. So this ass belonged to somebody.
Yeah.
Like, this guy could legally come in the door at 2:00 in the morning and kick my door down and be like, we're doing training right now.
Yeah.
Or like,
literally almost have a serial number on your ass.
Yeah.
Your
Or like just, knock on the door at 8:00 at night. And I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get this done. Negative. We're training. Like, And some of it was good and some of it was unnecessary. But yeah, very, very good parallels. I think the bullshit factor, it was so much less in the Hotshots. Like just the getting fucked with factor was so low. I was like, yeah, this is awesome. Like nobody's trying to ruin my life. No one's trying
to smoke you.
Yeah, I'm not like standing in front of the armory with a clean gun for 6 hours because somebody else's gun isn't clean enough, you know?
What about you guys? How did you sell your program?
I'm going to let Justin answer this because I'm a washed up hotshot now. So I'm going to let him answer it.
I mean, to sell our program, it's like, at least for Ruby, it's a lot of young people. Traditionally, on most hotshot crews, they come from all over the country. The camaraderie with the guys of bringing, like, if you're in the barracks, like they're talking about, at least for Ruby, no one's really from Elko. So they're literally living, sleeping with each other all the time, doing stuff in their off time at the barracks, learning new recipes and stuff like that. And then we start rolling. Our program, we try to hold a high expectation for physical fitness. We compete in the BLM Fitness Challenge. Traditionally, we're at least in the top 5, I hope.
Side note to the BLM Fitness Challenge. What the fuck is up with the plank shit? Is that real?
Yeah.
No more sit-ups.
Some people like it. Some people hate it. Like we talked about at the Handcrew committee extensively, and it's totally biased based on what your strength is. Like I could do a zillion sit-ups. It's of absolutely no value. Like I could just keep going and going, but you get this big old 6'5" body in a plank. My elbows start shaking pretty quick. My abs aren't as strong as I was hoping they were. And it's like building a big bridge across the long gap. It's got to be super strong.
And I think the problem with that now is like the planks, like trying to correlate the scores, like the old scores from when you did sit-ups to the planks. Like I feel like they're not jiving right now. You know what I mean? Somebody that might get like a lower score on the sit-ups, might get a perfect score on the planks. Absolutely. And I think like trying to correlate that scoring system, hopefully within the next few years, it'll get hashed out. But
I just don't like fucking with tradition.
Well, and I can't blame it on the people who are working on it because they're doing it with the greatest of intentions. But the military's been trying to figure this one out forever, and all the branches have different aspects of how they go about it. And now the BLM's like, let's start fresh from nothing.
My recommendation: don't do your physical training in the off season to pass the fitness test. You will fail through the summer.
You burn yourself out, man.
I don't care if you can do 20 pull-ups because pull-ups don't put out fires. Mm-mm. You got to train for the season and just the rigors and the grind and the being beat down. Like I've had dudes and even gals that have crushed the fitness test, but they get broke off on a hike.
Right.
I'd rather crush the hike than get broke off.
Yeah. I mean, we're doing call-ins. We start May 8th for Ruby. And our ultimate goal is like, we do have the fitness challenge. We do want to compete against it. Our intent is that you show up ready, healthy. That's what they're calling in for. And 2, you're wearing your boots.
They're tied.
And they're tied. And you're hiking because that's how, we get to work. And that's
you
the
take your shoe
goal
breeze.
is we need healthy hotshots and we need you, physically fit, but most of all, ready to hike and to hike everything. If it's a QB, Jerry, chainsaw, we want everyone to be equally the same, and hopefully everyone shows up ready to go.
Well, and to have a good attitude about it, know, like, and the big thing that we're having to, at least down where I'm at, is tell people, dude, like, just come in healthy. Like, don't break yourself trying to train for the season. And once you get there, then you can come in 5th gear, but once you get there, just drop it to 4th and just maintain the rest of the season, please.
Yeah, don't bonk at the first week of Hell Week,
Yeah, I mean, everyone can say it right now. If you haven't been on a crew, like you think you're ready, and we all have our stories.
I made that mistake.
You think you're ready. I came to the crew when I was 19, and thought I was unbeatable. Played high school football and all this stuff, and absolutely got my ass waxed.
Oh yeah.
And the PTs, the hikes that we did, they are hard. But I also, and Chase can attest to this, I never wanted to feel like that again. So I made sure that I was ready for the next season and then to sustain it.
No, I walked into Silver State as a 20-year-old full of himself, fucking cocky little shit, right? And I thought I was ready for this this physical challenge component, the physical component of being a hotshot. And I fucking washed. I got my ass beat like a wad of cookie dough. And I'm not afraid to admit it, because it was one of the most valuable lessons I ever learned. Did I get back onto a hotshot crew later in life? Yeah, absolutely. Did I recover? Did I get a very, very hard lesson in humility? Absolutely, man. It's no joke.
That first hike, you can't escape it, especially if you've never done it. Like when I was at DR, the guys used to come in the off season and they would hike it. They would hike the big hikes daily because they were just so nervous of that first hike. And I would always tell them, man, you can hike that hill by yourself or with two buddies that are also rookies. You can hike it 1,000 times, but until you get put in the pack and the guys in the big boys in the front with the big saws are in front of you and you're staring at the back of a Dolmar and like you're wondering why you're breathing so bad and the other dudes aren't, like, and the nerves all hit you and you're wondering why you're going to puke. Like I've hiked this hill 1,000 times. Like that first hike in the pack is that's the true test. Like
when shit gets real.
That's the gut check.
Yeah. I mean, it should be, right?
Yeah.
At least every crew operates differently. We all do the same job, but everyone operates differently.
Yeah.
On Ruby, it doesn't matter if you were a Sawyer for 10 years. You fall out.
You're done.
You know, the dude grabs that's theirs. I mean, everyone has bad days and, you know, and not saying whatever, everyone has excuses, and we operate in a high level capacity and that's just the way it is with us.
Oh yeah.
I love the first hike. First day of critical, we tried to be hiking within the first hour because I'd carry a chainsaw and I could just talk so much smack because everybody behind me is a heck of a lot stronger than I was, but I knew where we were going. It was game on, and they're just mentally freaking out, and so just trying to get that first hike out of the way, and then get them to realize like, okay, you know, I've got this. I'm strong.
Did you do the like we're going till I'm tired hike?
Yeah.
Did you have to? You would just go. Because like when I was there's certain bases where the hikes have to end. There's the top of a ridge and like you can't go any further. But shoot, like where I was at DR, like you can just grab a piece of a road and find another dozer line and grab a piece of a road and find another hand line. And like those were the worst. Like even as a squad leader, you know, or a captain, like I've hiked this hill 1,000 times, but I don't know where, like how froggy is the guy in the front feeling today?
Well, and we had, if we're running out of time, just give us
we got about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So I got to go to the next meeting. No, it's good, man.
Then.
But yeah, if you guys want to continue this conversation after the day, man, by all means, we can. I got to call it though. I got to go put on a little presentation with booze. So, but yeah, dude, this has been a hell of a conversation. It's been real eye-opening into the culture and like the way hotshot crews actually operate. It gets rid of some of that, like that mysticism, those false, I guess, perceptions, those misconceptions that we have. So, and yeah, there's a lot of value being on a crew. So, but since we're at the end of the show and unfortunately I got to bail, sorry guys, this could go on forever. I wish it could go on more, but we'll get you guys back on the show. But before we go for a cut, I'd like to give an opportunity for you guys to give some shout outs to some homies, heroes, mentors. Take it away, man.
Oh man, I'll go last.
Oh man.
Here we go.
Half of mine are dead, unfortunately. First captain, Frank Esposito, roommate, Charles Morton. Shoot, on my squad, Brent Witham. Shoot, all the Wyken Harris. I mean, the list is it's so long, man. I need to get them all tattooed so I can remember them. But probably the person that gave me a shot at first, besides Frank, was my first superintendent, Pete Coy. Just kind of looked at me and said, well, he's a veteran and it probably won't be that bad. And I really appreciated that.
Okay, man.
First, I just want to give a shout out to my wife for dealing with me being a hotshot basically since we've started dating. So she kind of held the home front down for over a decade while I was gone. And then all my previous supervisors, Jake Livingston, Chris Demers, learned some great things from you guys, like all the overhead on the Suns, the crew members I worked with over the years on the Suns and people I led on Ruby. It's like, I appreciate everyone. And it's been a good ride. I'm taking a new trajectory right now. We'll see how that goes, but I appreciate everyone. So
fucking in, man.
yeah, for me, it'd be for my family. You know, if you don't have that support, can't do this. And then all the alumni, you know, that were on Ruby, you know, everyone probably still wants to be here. And then for Maness here sitting next to me,
passing the torch, man.
Passing the torch. But yeah, I wish I could have worked for him a little bit longer, but it is what it is. And by far one of my favorite supervisors.
You're never fully ready to be a hotshot soup.
How much did he pay you to say that?
My wife's going to kill me.
Oh, so I'll close it out real quick. I just, you know, probably my first soup gave me the opportunity. I felt like I was kind of a fuck up in my life and trying to navigate, you know, definitely the family aspect that I didn't really, you know, value as much as I should have. And then I'd say everybody that put up with me for my first years as a soup, you know, let me practice leadership and figuring out what wasn't working and what we were trying to do better, and just watching that legacy spread and all the badass shit they're doing now.
Fucking A. Well, gentlemen, thank you for so much for your insight and your professional knowledge here. It definitely is a cool little insight to how crews operate and like the culture behind it. Cause yeah, like I said, a lot of misconceptions out there. So hopefully we can get you back on the show a little bit later, and hopefully we'll do round 2. I don't know if everybody's got time, but we'll try and figure it out. So
Sounds good.
Chase has time. I have time. I don't know about these two.
Nevada's big.
Copy that, guys. Thanks for listening.
Ready, break.
And boom, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Anchor Point Podcast is in the books with the Nevada State Bureau of Land Management crews. Yeah. So I just want to say thank you for being on the show. I know a lot of crews, and especially Hotshots, well, pretty much any crew, they don't like being, you know, in the spotlight, I guess. Whether that's like if media shows up to an incident or if they have to sit down and do an interview. All I want to say is thank you. I definitely appreciate you fine folks getting on the show and sharing your subject matter expertise and your professional insight and knowledge as to crews, how they operate, some stuff on the horizon, the old school versus new school, and all of the other stuff that we discussed. JP, Justin, Kris, Chase, dudes, thank you so very, very, very much for being on the show. Yeah, that was epic. So thank you once again. Hope everybody got some tasty little tidbits out of this show. Just to clarify, we are going to be doing a couple more episodes with the Nevada State Bureau of Land Management. And yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was recorded. There was over like 14 hours of content. Yeah, it was a lot. But anyways, I just want to give a special little shout out to the State of Nevada Bureau of Land Management for making this thing all happen. And a special shout out to my buddy Booze over at the Ass Movement for basically carrying my ass through a presentation that we had to give. You crushed it, dude. Thanks. Sorry, I'm heavy. As for the rest of you, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. And yeah, up next is going to be a couple of other guests, including aviation, my boy Walker, and my buddy Paul, who's going to do a nutrition episode. It's pretty epic. So special shout out to our sponsors. We've got Mystery Ranch. If you want to apply for the Mystery Ranch Backbone Scholarship, well, TikTok pitter patter, May 31st is the ending date for your deadline there. So if you want to submit your story, go over to www.mysteryranch.com and start telling your story. Yeah, you might have a chance to win one of those $1,000 professional workforce development grants. It's pretty awesome. We've got Hotshot Brewery, kick-ass coffee for a kick-ass cause, and a portion of the proceeds will always go back to the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. Go over to www.hotshotbrewing.com and check out their full line of coffee and coffee-making stuff. It's awesome. And of course, we have the Ass Movement, the finest purveyors of poo-bearing propaganda. My buddy Booze over there, once again, another shout out. He is killing it. And if you want to save 10% off your entire order at www.thefirewild.com/theassmovement, well, use the code AnchorPointAss10 at checkout. It's awesome. And last but not least, we have the Smoky Generation, aka the American Wildfire Experience. Bethany, you have a kick-ass organization over there. Keep it up. Go over to www.wildfireexperience.org and check it out. Y'all know the drill. Hope you enjoyed the show, but stay safe, stay savage. Peace.